SpaceX. Ladies and gentlemen, friends of innovation and the frontier, I invite you today to join me on a journey. A journey that begins on the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center, Florida, travels into the void of low Earth orbit, and connects to the profound ambition of bringing the Earth nearer, through rockets, through connectivity, through transformation. SpaceX is that bridge. It is more than a company that builds rockets. It is more than a constellation of satellites orbiting our planet. It is one of the avatars of our era's promise, that the edge of what's possible is ever moving outward. The recent milestones. Recently, SpaceX launched the mission named Starlink Group 1051, lifting off at 3:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time from Launch Complex 39A. Spaceflight now. On board were 29 Starlink V2 Mini optimized satellites deployed in a little over an hour after launch. Spaceflight now. Earlier in November, SpaceX delivered 28 satellites from Vandenberg for another batch. Spaceflight now. These launches aren't incremental, they are iterative and exponential, building a network, building reach, building scale. The magnitude is remarkable. In 2025 alone, SpaceX has conducted more than 140 Falcon 9 launches. Money control. Each flight carries more than mere hardware. It carries the ambition of a new global infrastructure, broadband in the sky, connectivity for the remote, resilience for the underserved. Why this matters? Think back for a moment. There was an era when space was the preserve of governments, of large agencies, of missions measured in years and tens of millions of dollars. Now we live in an era where SpaceX launches dozens of missions a year, recovers boosters, reflies hardware, and serves millions of users worldwide. That shift is transformational. By deploying Starlink satellites rapidly and at scale, SpaceX is laying down what may become the backbone of global connectivity. For students in remote regions, for disaster zones where infrastructure is down, for ships at sea, for airplanes, for telemedicine, the implications are profound. The Earth becomes smaller, the horizon broadens. And from a technological lens, the reuse of boosters, the cadence of launches, the industrialization of space, these are not small technical feats. They represent a new industrial age of space. When a Falcon 9 lands again, it is more than a spectacle. It is cost control, it is sustainability, it is repeatability. The broader landscape and competition. To understand SpaceX's role fully, we must also acknowledge the competitive and collaborative universe in which it operates. For example, Blue Origin is preparing its New Glenn heavy lift rocket for its own major missions. On November 9, 2025, New Glenn is scheduled to carry NASA's ESCAPADE Mars probes. Space. While Blue Origin isn't SpaceX, the existence of serious alternative players validates that what once was frontier is now infrastructure. The challenge of space is becoming normalized, and that means more actors, more services, more modes. Within that ecosystem, SpaceX isn't just a participant, it is still the standard bearer for cadence and cost-effectiveness. When we observe SpaceX launching 29 satellites at a time, landing and re-landing boosters, serving global end users, we see what the future might look like when launch and space service become routine, not exceptional. The challenges and responsibilities. Yet, with great ambition comes significant responsibility. SpaceX's mega-constellation raises questions about orbital debris, about spectrum rights, about regulatory regimes across countries. When tens of thousands of satellites orbit the Earth, issues of space traffic management become pressing. In addition, the promise of global connectivity must meet reality. Latency, cost, user hardware, service plans, local regulation, all of these are non-trivial. Infrastructure doesn't end when the satellite is launched, it begins then. Terminals must work, networks must integrate, service must be reliable. There is also the environmental lens. Launches use materials, fuel, satellites end lives, boosters splash down. The industrialization of space demands we think about sustainability as squarely as innovation. What comes next? What stands ahead is a confluence of possibilities. For SpaceX, the next frontiers may include further scaling of Starlink networks, perhaps direct-to-mobile connectivity, IoT via satellite, deep space communications. Furthermore, the same rocket infrastructure that serves Earth orbit may ascend to moon missions, Mars missions, human journeys. As SpaceX deploys batch after batch of satellites, we should watch. Coverage and capacity. How rapidly will Starlink reach truly global service, including remote geographies? New services. Will SpaceX deliver direct-to-cell via satellite? Or backhaul for emerging 5G per 6G networks? Or complete connectivity for maritime/aviation? Cost reduction. With reuse of hardware, will the cost per GB of delivered service fall steeply, opening new markets? Meaningful competition. How will other players respond? How will regulators adapt? How will infrastructure adapt? Space ecosystem health. How will orbital traffic, sustainability, end-of-life satellite disposal be managed? A vision. Imagine a ship in a remote part of the Pacific, previously without reliable internet, now streaming, communicating, coordinating, connected via a Starlink terminal. Imagine a student on a rural mountain road in Africa accessing world-class education thanks to satellite broadband. Imagine disaster response teams setting up instantaneous connectivity where terrestrial infrastructure was destroyed. Imagine broadband as natural and ubiquitous as electricity. SpaceX isn't just launching satellites, it is launching possibilities. The invisible lines of communication that bind our world tighter, more imaginative, more immediate. The frontier of space becomes less there and more here. In conclusion, we live in an age where what was once science fiction is now operations. The launch pad at Cape Canaveral, the rocket rising in the dark, the booster returning, the satellite network expanding, these are daily parts of a story that matters deeply to all of humanity. SpaceX is one of the authors of that story. Let us therefore watch, not passively, but inquisitively. Let us ask, are we building infrastructure that is inclusive? That is sustainable? That is resilient? Are we ensuring that the benefits of this new space era reach all people, not just those already connected? For SpaceX and for all of us, the question is not just, can we? But, how will we? And, for whom? The rockets rise. The satellites spin. The network unfolds. And the world watches, more connected, more capable, more curious. Thank you for listening.